Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, a place where the departed walk with the living, a place where spiritual phenomena are so dense they are impossible to count. It all began from July 1st to July 3rd, 1863. The Battle of Gettysburg took place. This was the bloodiest battle in American Civil War history, a brutal turning point in the conflict. When the last gunshot fell silent, over 50,000 soldiers had been killed, wounded, or reported missing. The tiny town of 2,400 people was suddenly forced to bear a loss of life 12 times its own population. An anonymous New Jersey soldier described the horrific scene. Upon the open fields, like sheaves bound by the reaper in crevices of the rocks behind fences, trees, and buildings. In thickets where they had crept for safety only to die in agony. Here a headless trunk, there a severed limb. They lay in all the grotesque positions that unbearable pain can contort the human form. The soldiers were buried in shallow, hasty mass graves with no rites, no prayers. Their blood soaked every inch of the earth. And it is said that the agony, the fear, and the ultimate rage of 50,000 men left an indelible stain. Today, nearly 1 million people visit Gettysburg each year, but not just for the history. They come for the tales of lingering spirits, making this one of the most haunted locations in the United States. Today we aren't going to talk about strategies, we're going to talk about the soldiers who never left their posts. Please hit like and subscribe because we are about to step onto the most haunted battlefield in America. Why is Gettysburg so heavily haunted? Some people believe in the stone tape theory, which suggests that extreme emotional energy at the moment of passing can be recorded into the environment, especially into the granite and quartz rocks that are so abundant here. But perhaps the simplest explanation is the most terrifying. Jeff Belanger, a folklore researcher, said, "Gettysburg is haunted because it should be haunted." When you have tens of thousands of people perish in 3 days, that leaves a stain that can never be washed away. As President Lincoln said in his famous Gettysburg Address, "We cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallowed this ground." The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. They consecrated it, and they still haven't left. The supernatural activity here isn't just recent stories. It was recorded right after the battle ended. One of the first stories happened on the night of July 1st into the early morning of July 2nd. As the Union's 5th Corps was marching in the dark to Gettysburg, they saw a mysterious horseman up ahead. This figure would appear and then disappear, but what horrified them was his uniform. It was the uniform of the Revolutionary War. Many soldiers believed it was the ghost of George Washington leading them to the fateful battle. Today, those soldiers are still everywhere. Visitors constantly report hearing phantom drum beats, the sound of muskets and cannons echoing from afar, the sound of marching feet in the woods, and heart-wrenching screams. But some locations are scarier than others. Let's start with Devil's Den. This is a jumble of boulders where Confederate sharpshooters hid. It was one of the most vicious places of fighting. The name, according to legend, existed even before the battle, when locals believed it was haunted by a giant snake they called the Devil. Some even believe it was the site of an ancient Native American battle. Whatever its origin, the Civil War turned it into a true slaughterhouse. So much blood was spilled that the nearby creek was named Bloody Run. Today, visitors to Devil's Den report strange phenomena. Cameras and phones suddenly stop working. Full batteries drain in an instant, as if something there doesn't want to be photographed. And then there's him. Many people over many decades have reported seeing the same ghost, a man with no shoes, messy hair, and ragged clothes, looking more like a hippie than a soldier. Historians believe this was a soldier from the Texas Brigade, who often didn't have standard uniforms and fought in whatever they had. This spirit often approaches visitors, says one short sentence. "What you're looking for is over there," then points toward Plum Run and vanishes into thin air. Next is the triangular field right near Devil's Den. This is the place most famous for electronic failures. Visitors report seeing countless shadows flitting across the field, the feeling of being touched by unseen hands and hearing the screams of soldiers' cannon fire and the rebel yell echoing across the field. And then there's Little Round Top site of one of the most heroic Union defenses. This is where extras filming the movie Gettysburg in 1993 had a strange encounter. While resting, an old dirty man in a torn Union uniform reeking of gunpowder walked out of the woods. He handed them a fistful of real musket rounds and said, "Rough one today, eh boys, before turning and disappearing. Those bullets were later confirmed to be authentic Civil War-era ammunition. The soldiers didn't just stay on the battlefield. They flooded the town. Almost every old building in Gettysburg is haunted. The Jenny Wade house is a tragic example. Jenny Wade, 20 years old, was the only civilian killed during the battle. She was hit by a stray bullet that came through her kitchen door while she was baking bread for soldiers. Since then, her house has become a spiritual hotspot. Staff and visitors frequently hear doors open and close on their own footsteps and the whispers of a woman. It's believed her spirit is still trapped eternally, carrying out her final task. Gettysburg College is no exception. The school's Pennsylvania Hall was used as a field hospital for both sides. For years, students and staff have reported seeing the shadows of sentries patrolling the building's cupola. But the most terrifying story comes from two school administrators. One night, they were taking the elevator to the ground floor. Suddenly, the elevator went down to the basement on its own. When the doors opened, they weren't looking at the storage room. Instead, they were looking straight into a Civil War field hospital. Bloody doctors were shouting, frantic nurses were running back and forth, and wounded soldiers were lying everywhere on the floor. The entire scene was completely silent. As they frantically hit the button, a spectral orderly looked up and stared right into their eyes as if asking for help just before the elevator doors closed. And then there's Sachs-covered Bridge, a place said to be haunted by the spirits of 3 Confederate deserters who were hanged there. Visitors often smell phantom cigar smoke, hear distant cannons, or feel an ice-cold tap on their shoulder. And when they turn around, no one is there. One of the saddest stories belongs to the Hummelbaugh farm. Confederate General William Barksdale was gravely wounded and brought here. He lay dying on the porch, repeatedly crying out for water. It's said that on hot July nights, his desperate cries of "water, water" still echo. The tragedy didn't stop there. When his wife came to retrieve his remains, his beloved hunting dog came with her. The dog lay down on his master's temporary grave, refused to eat or drink, and howled mournfully until it too passed from grief. It's said that on the anniversary of the general's passing, the ghostly howl of that loyal dog can still be heard in the night. And then there's the Rose Farm. This was a field hospital, and hundreds of soldiers were buried in temporary rows around the house. After the battle, when the bodies were being exhumed, one of the Rose family's daughters went mad. She claimed to see blood pouring from the walls of the house. Gettysburg isn't just a battlefield, it is an open-air museum of suffering. It is a place that, as Abraham Lincoln said, we can never forget. And it seems neither can the soldiers who fought there. They are still marching, still fighting, still waiting. The ghosts here aren't just stories to scare people. They are history demanding to be remembered. Thank you for listening. What do you think about the spirits of Gettysburg? Are they trying to tell us their story, or are they simply trapped in an eternal loop of those 3 bloody days? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I'll see you in the next case file.